So welcome back to the atmosphere of Forever Horror Month, as we journey into a remake of a William Castle classic, with 1999's House on Haunted Hill. In 1931, the Vatican Institute for the Criminally Insane was oversieged by its inmates, killing nearly everyone inside, except for a small group of survivors, and was condemned from then on. Over 50 years later, thrill ride auteur Stephen Price has an embittered marriage to Evelyn, where they both live to twist a knife on one another. With her birthday approaching, Evelyn plots to celebrate it on the House on Haunted Hill, but both of their plans get overridden by evil supernatural forces. A group of 5 strangers are ultimately invited for reasons unknown. An inherited owner of the notorious house, Wilson Bridgette, emphatically warns that it's not safe to stay the night. However, Price offers $1 million each to whomever can survive till dawn, which is far more of a dreadful task than imagined when the house goes into lockdown and inexplicable, terrifying occurrences befall them all. Now, while sordid and violent schemes unfold between the Prices to prey on everyone's fears, a pointed revelation is discovered, but everyone's linked to the house, as the ghosts of the asylum are intent on letting no one out alive. So House on Haunted Hill was released onto cinema screens on October 29th of 1999, 40 years after the William Castle Vincent Price version, and this was the very first production of the newly established Dark Castle Entertainment, founded by producers Joel Silver and Robert Zemeckis, and they had just gotten the rights to the William Castle Library, and director William Malone had already done a bunch of stuff on Tales from the Crypt, which was produced by Zemeckis himself, so all this stuff was very much at hand to invite him in and get him talking about this whole thing and pitching him the idea and going off with screenwriter Dick Beebe, kind of put together a first draft of the film script, and it didn't quite hold up very well. It was kind of done in a bit of a rush, but Malone went to bat for him and sat down and kind of hashed the entire thing out and looked back on the original film and found out what really did work for them, what didn't quite work as well, and tried to enhance the ideas and kind of discover what they could do more with the concept with modern technology and all these different things that they really could not have done 40 years prior. And so a lot of these things really came together very well for him, that he was very much golf on such a, he doesn't really want to call it old school style, but more of a sort of traditional, sort of conventional type of way of kind of crafting ideas and crafting the scares and creating all these effects in the film, that in all the entire film there's barely any actual digital effects that are completely done that way in the computer. Certainly a lot of things are composited digitally in this time period, but he just wanted to go for such a thing in this film to really kind of push that edge of it, to use as much stuff they could do in camera as possible, to do things with other different frame rates and weird shutter speeds and all these little tricks that they could possibly put together to really kind of make the film have an organic sense of how it's trying to envelop the audience and trying to scare them and try to get them into the atmosphere of the film. And it's such a good way of how they just kind of make the entire house a sort of 20s, 30s Art Deco type of thing, and they really want to focus in and kind of grasp that sort of feeling of kind of old Hollywood in a certain way, and have a lot of sort of things in the cinematography and the art direction, all these different things, really kind of evoke that sort of feeling in the film. You've got all these great shots in the film where you're kind of unveiling the character of Stephen Price, and he's got this wonderful sort of old style suit on and everything like that, and just these sort of noirish type of feels to different things in the film to kind of hearken and kind of pull with these little inspirations and influences and just these ideas that you could kind of get from that era of cinema and all these different things of culture and style and art and everything, to really kind of inform that and how you just present the entire house once everyone's inside of it. It's all very sort of old school in a certain way. It feels very classic in its sentimentalities. it's just such a great thing that the film does take place in a contemporary modern setting, but once everyone kind of enters the house, it all feels different. It feels, again, harkening back to that era and everything. Everything is very much enveloped in that atmosphere and that mood and that feeling overall. Everything just kind of informs it, and all the ways they filmed the entire movie, from fantastic director of photography Rick Bodo, who also worked a bit on Tales from the Crypt, and would later do a couple of the direct-to-video Hellraiser sequels as a director himself. But he's just a really damn good cinematographer that really just adds so much to the film to just give it a certain sensibility that William Malone kind of edged towards the side of wide-angle lenses. And I think that really does a lot of things to kind of give a certain sense of scope when you're up there in the main foyer or whatnot, the big kind of entrance way of the entire place, and you kind of get the widespread feeling of the entire area there. And then when you get the much more claustrophobic environments, I think if they shot this in CinemaScope in a much wider frame, I don't think it would have had the exact same mood. It would be a little too much open space, kind of open negative space in the film or whatnot. I think the 1:8:5 aspect ratio format for the film really adds to closed-in corridors and all these different things they're using with this cinematography to kind of lure you into the film and get these creepy, moody moments going and everything. I think that, tied in with the wide-angle lenses, the frame kind of warps a tad bit more than usual to get that sort of sensibility that things are not quite right. And there's just something with the lighting and the choice of color schemes, the kind of blues and all the kind of more sickly colors that kind of fall into the film when you're down there in the basement, everything lurking around. It just gives a certain creepiness of sorts. It gives a certain, just a mood again, that just kind of lures you into the style and the feeling of the film and everything, getting you into these creepy little corridors and all these different things. I think the cinematography really excels here to really just make it such an inviting film to get you into the story and everything, and get you into what's going on with the haunting and the ghosts and all these little things going on. It does a really fantastic job with that. But the real fantastic thing I feel in this whole film is that they put together a fantastic cast in this whole thing. Starting with Geoffrey Rush, who's just amazing. He's amazing. He was up for an Oscar at the time for Shakespeare in Love, and it was such a thing with William Malone, kind of like, you're a guy who's up for an Oscar, you're up for these prestige picture type of things. Why do you want to go off and do this little kind of horror film that I'm doing here? It's like, Rush just wanted to do something kind of fun. He wanted to get out of the period piece stuff, guys in tights, all this type of stuff. He wanted to have a fun time, and goddamn, Geoffrey Rush is having the best time of his life in this whole film. That you can see between this and like Barbossa and the Pirates of the Caribbean films. The guy loves this type of stuff. He loves to get it, just kind of expand his kind of range and whatnot, to kind of breathe into a character that much and whatnot, to kind of be a little bit exaggerated, have a showmanship about him. And the character of Price just absolutely positively has that. He's just wreaking charisma all over this film, just having a fantastic experience being in this character who's, again, he just got such a devious, mischievous sort of streak in the whole film. You just really feel that. I'm just like, I love him working off of Famke Janssen here, that they have such an amazing chemistry for two characters who absolutely have the thorough spite for one another. There's such a venomous feel between this married couple who just cannot stand each other to the point of just wanting to kill one another. Just, I love the sort of tit-for-tat thing that got going on the whole film, that it builds up a conflict, it builds up a tension the whole film, a certain sense of paranoia as their little schemes keep going off in different directions and whatnot. It's like they're so suspicious of one another, of doing something else, that they're not even thinking about real paranormal type of stuff happening here. They keep pointing fingers back and forth and all these different things. I love how it just keeps the characters on their toes. It kind of second guess everything that's going on. Just keeps a certain energy in the film and a certain suspicion going on that just keeps motivating and moving the story in different directions. Geoffrey Rush is having the most delightful time in this film. I just absolutely positively love what he's doing here. Just everything. It's top form, wonderful stuff. Janssen, she's fantastic. She's got such a cutting wit in this whole film. Just like, there's just devious, vile edge as well. So it's like she's just, again, just digging into it so very well and just relishing the moment of just dealing with this character and getting all these little moments where they kind of shine in a certain way. And the cast just keeps going on from there. I love Taye Diggs. He's a wonderful actor, and he always has this bright, positive, fresh energy whenever he's on screen. Just like there's something about him that just brings a certain heroic quality, a certain altruism about his character here of Eddie Baker here, that he definitely starts standing out as like the stand-up guy. This guy who's got his head on the right shoulders, and he doesn't have ulterior motives or any kind of weird agenda stuff. There's no shady stuff. The character really is got this wonderful quality in this whole thing, and he has such a fantastic chemistry with Larter, who's also absolutely fantastic. She kind of just shot like Final Destination before this, and I think she would do some reshoots for the final ending that they ended up with that after this wrapped and everything. But she does a fantastic job with Taye Diggs. They just have that certain quality about them. There's just something sparked between them that really has an energy, a momentum going through the whole film. That a lot of the characters do have the kind of shades here and there. They're not entirely put together, or they got something else kind of going on here and there. But these two characters, between Taye Diggs and Larter, really have a wonderful thing going on this whole thing. And it's kind of interesting getting Chris Kattan into this whole film as a character of Pritchard, the guy who just kind of inherited his goddamn house through his lineage and everything, and he's scared to shit about it. He doesn't want to be here. He doesn't want to deal with this shit and all this type of stuff. And Kattan was still in the middle of his SNL run and all the type of stuff. And it's kind of interesting where I think William Malone originally wanted much more of a dramatic actor, something more like a John Hurt character actor type of guy who would play the character in a completely different fashion than what Kattan does. But for the most part, I think Kattan adds something that I think is really kind of refreshing to the film. That again, he's stressed out. He knows everything he's saying is the absolute goddamn truth, but no one really wants to listen to him because he's so losing it from the first moment you see him on the screen that he's kind of lost his mind in a certain way. He's lost his shit, and just like I just love the fact that the more the film goes on, he gets more distraught, and he's just wants to drown himself in booze in this entire situation because he doesn't want to deal with it. He knows you're gonna fucking die. It's kind of interesting. I think in a few moments at a certain point, it gets a little more exaggerated in a certain way. I think it could have benefited from a little bit more kind of grasping, a little bit more gravitas, a little more dramatic edge to the whole thing, and kind of losing a little bit of the comedy to it. I think it got a little bit more grim towards the end. I think it would have held a little bit more weight instead of kind of constantly going for a little bit more over the top type of stuff as it goes along. But for the most part, I think he does a good job in the film. I think I really was entertained by what he was giving for the most part in the film. And you got Bridgette Wilson here, who a lot of people know as Sonya Blade from the Mortal Kombat movie, and she was also in Last Action Hero, and she does a good job in this thing. She's got a real kind of exuberance in a certain way. She's portraying this sort of ex-celebrity of sorts. Sonya had a really big talk show or something like that, and she's going around with this video camera to try and get some like sensationalized footage, something really kind of cutting and whatnot, something she could really sell to some sort of network executive and get herself back on top and get herself back in the whole thing. And where Sonya has kind of a truncated amount of screen time in the film, really does the most with it. I think she does a really good job to make a strong impression and just really just creates a character that just gels with everyone, melds with the entire tone of the film, that has the sort of balance between kind of the horror stuff and a little bit of the light humor going on in the situation, where the situation brings out the sort of humor in certain characters and stuff like that. So it's like the stress of the situation and all these different things and the dynamics and interactions with all the characters kind of bring out identities and distinctnesses and all these different personality traits that really just makes the film so rich in that certain way with all these different characters. And getting Peter Gallagher, again, a guy who's just really fucking good actor, and playing the character of Dr. Blackburn, this whole thing is like, I like that he kind of starts out just like another guest in a certain way, but he has a little bit more of his feet kind of a little bit more cemented in the situation, that he's not so put off by being there, by being invited, where everyone else is kind of like very random. They have no idea why they're here. They have no familiarity with anyone else. He's kind of showing that sort of solidarity and kind of groundedness and everything that he's dealing with. And obviously you get, again, that fantastic twist in the whole film with his character, that he's kind of got an adulterous relationship with Evelyn. And that whole thing is just a wonderful sort of twist that kind of brings out, again, those conflicts and the paranoia and all these different things, the sort of stuff that he kind of drives Stephen Price to, and he starts spawning off stuff, seeing who's this guy in the doctor's smock and all this type of stuff, lab coat stuff, running around and all these different things, and he's getting kind of crazy and paranoid and all these different things, and it kind of drives him towards a certain thing, and it's all revealed to be this entire plot between Blackburn and Evelyn, to be this adulterous plot to kind of kill off Stephen and have this wonderful type of contrived, in a way, plot between them to really kind of sensationalize his death in a certain way, and just like have everything kind of turned back around on Stephen Price, this guy who's a showman, the guy who does everything to get a good scare out of people, all these different things, the little schemes that he has to kind of like trick people out, and all these different little things that try to kind of pull that and turn that back around on him. It's kind of a smart type of thing in that type of way between those two characters, but then as you see later on, it's like even Price, like, I had everything bugged. I heard everything the two of you were saying. I knew everything you guys were doing. It's like, it's wonderful. I love those two characters between Stephen Price and Evelyn. They're so at each other's throats. They don't trust one another for a goddamn microsecond. And they're so paranoid between the two of them and all these different things. They're so absolutely suspicious. And you have that wonderful character of Blackburn right in the middle there. And he doesn't get out clean at all. It's like, she's so much on this whole thing. It's like, no one's paranoid enough to go off and just kill Price himself. So they got to add another body. They got to put a bloody knife or whatnot in like Stephen Price's hand to kind of amp it up or whatnot. You got to punch up the showmanship of this entire situation and get people really kind of wrapped up in knots about things. It's just wonderful. It's wonderful. It's not even all the ghost stuff in the film that's the absolute best stuff. It's all these character interactions and the dynamics going on and all these different machinations that are kind of weaving themselves in and out in different situations. It's like it creates such a, again, that paranoid sense about things. You don't know if this is Price playing tricks on people, is it Evelyn playing tricks on people, is it the ghost doing stuff? It's like it kind of keeps everything hopping around, moving from one thing to the next to keep the thing interesting as the characters progress, and you have the different conflicts and different things kind of twisting around. It makes the film so entertaining and interesting, keeps the momentum going forward. It's just a wonderful type of thing to just get into these characters. Such a fantastically done cast. I just love how everyone is written. The direction is fantastic there with Malone working with these actors so much, and just everyone just bringing so much forward. There's so much of a distinctness between all the characters that has a wonderful sensibility about it. But all that doesn't work quite so well if you don't have the really good horror elements of this film. And just like, as they kind of say in the beginning of the film with Stephen Price when he's kind of unveiling his new terror ride whatnot in the film here with cameos from Lisa Loeb and James Marsters, it's a wonderful thing that he says there's no cheap scares. And the film subtly lays that in there. There are no cheap scares in this film. I don't feel there's any at all. Everything feels very earned in a certain way. All these little things build towards something and have these wonderful moments. I love the whole thing where you have that kind of ghostly version of Eddie there down the hall kind of stalking around and whatnot. And you got the wonderful red eye effect, which was lifted from Ridley Scott and Blade Runner. Admittedly from William Malone. That's where he got the idea from, and that's where the trick came from, to get that little glimmer of red in the eyes. The entire sequence is really just a chilling type of thing. It's really creepy. I really, really like that. Just like, it just again, haunts you in a certain way and draws you into the film and gets a little bit of a tingle going on and stuff like that. And just how they have all that stuff in the saturation chamber where Stephen Price is going completely out of his mind and whatnot, seeing all these bizarre visions of all these horrific things that Vanek would have done. All this different stuff, just like all the cool little camera tricks they did that have the sort of ramping speeds of the twitchiness of these ghostly figures, all these different things. Just like, it's really fucking good. It's like, it's, again, that's creepy shit. Just like, it's just so inhuman and so otherworldly in a certain way. Just like, it just wraps you up in a certain way. It's really good stuff. And it's like, as the film progresses, it just does some really good things with that. I just like how it just kind of adds those things in as it's moving all the character stuff all around and everything. Still got the haunting little things kind of spooking into the entire film here and there, whatnot. So it's like there's always a little bit of a presence in a certain way. It never gets too wrapped up in everything without forgetting what the overall atmosphere of the film is there to do and everything. So they got good stuff there. And again, another cast member doing wonderful stuff is Geoffrey Combs as this diabolical, psychotic doctor, whatnot. He was bad enough when he was alive. Now he's worse as a ghost. And it's kind of a sad thing. There's not more of him as a ghost in the film. I feel like there should have been more of that directly into the meat of the film here, because you only get kind of like one real shot of him in the film after you see the guy in the security station's face completely ripped out and everything. So it would have been nice to have a little bit more of that in there, but there's certain things in the saturation chamber, stuff like that. But as the film goes along, it's got good things going on, just like how I like how the Evelyn Steven thing kind of explodes in a certain way. But there was a different ending that Malone really wanted to do for the film, which I think was kind of a better idea on what they ended up going with, because I think the producers were much more towards the end of what ended up being there with this sort of embodiment of the entire evil, the entire house here kind of leaking out and becoming this sort of weird type of special effect type of thing. Originally, Malone was kind of looking to have like the ghosts of all the inmates and stuff like that kind of spill out in the entire place, and everyone's getting chased down corridors by these sort of ghostly inmates, these insane people, whatnot, and get all the victims of Vanica kind of coming at everyone. And it was kind of in a certain deleted scene they had there, which I think would have been better to keep into the film, but they kind of cut it out because of runtime issues, I guess, where Eddie and Sarah kind of running down the hallway away from this whole goddamn thing, and the floor opens up underneath them, and Sarah falls in, and kind of like these ghostly zombies or whatnot of all the inmates start popping up from the ashes of their corpses and everything. It's a really good sequence I think I really would have liked to keep in the film, because I think it adds a little bit extra something in there that, yeah, you got this entire thing of the darkness, the evil, stuff like that kind of manifest in a certain thing where I always felt it was a little bit anticlimactic in a certain way. Like, again, I like to have more Vanica himself in the film to kind of build up to that, or Malone's actual idea there would have been a little bit more satisfying towards like the actual core starting premise of the whole thing, where all these inmates ransack the entire place, and the place gets shut and closed down and sealed off, and the place burns, and all these people die. All this type of stuff, it would have kind of like put a cap on that in a certain way, have all those ghosts come back to life, and have that stuff kind of come into the whole thing. I think it would have been a stronger ending in a certain way. I think it would have had a little bit more punctuation, kind of flowed through in this ideas overall, instead of just having this one sort of embodiment of everything going on there. But it's still kind of a good ending in a certain way, regardless of that, because it wraps up the characters well. Kind of wraps things up maybe a little too fast in a certain way. It's a little too rapid pace, where everyone gets like, kind of picked off a little too quickly, but still good effects in this whole thing, because a lot of people will say they think there's a lot of digital effects in the film. They think that's entirely a digital creation, but the entire manifestation of the evil in the house is put together from dozens of actually photographed real life things they put together there. So it's like they didn't just punch the whole thing up in the computer. They did digitally composite it, but it's all created from real life photographed elements put together there and everything like that. So that's really sort of kind of admirable in a certain way. It's like they went through that extra effort, where at a time like there's so many films with like everything's going to be a digital effect. All this stuff's going to be in there because we think it can just do all the tricks, and it's going to just take care of everything. And it's like, I like the sensibility that he was still holding on and still being able to employ guys like the Skotek brothers, who had done such wonderful work with James Cameron over the years, and some other great films as well. So employ these people who knew really, really well how to produce these fantastic visual effects on such a practical level and create such a great quality with them as well. Even with the model shot and everything of the actual house itself looks absolutely fantastic. And all these little things they put together with all the effects just really adds so much the general quality and just the creepiness and the chilling sense about the film when it gets into these moments. It's like, it's a really good thing that you could put together such really good quality effects and like constantly sort of impress guys like Joel Silver or whatnot even if he'll be on the set kind of congratulating the wrong people for the job other people did, a guy like that who'd been in the business a long time is like, good on you for doing that stuff practically and getting it done in camera and saving us a bunch of money. Really good type of stuff, very economical filmmaking, showing that you could do that stuff really well and not have to spend tons of money and immense amount of man hours punching stuff into a computer. So it's like, it's a really good type of thing to see that quality in this whole thing, and Malone's sensibility as a filmmaker translate into the final product there. So, you know, that does feel like a little bit of a slight diversion, because you had such a great thing with the building character dynamics and all these different things with seeing Famke and stuff like that. So it would have been nice to have a little bit more towards that, to have it a little bit more in line and continue to have that little bit more of a organic connection between that stuff and what happens in the third act, where it still is kind of Famke stuff like that, but it's manifested in a different fashion. So it feels a little bit disconnected conceptually to me, but it still works in a certain level. It's like, it doesn't condemn the film at all. It kind of takes a little bit of a shine off of it for me, but it's still like, it's a good film. It's a fun time. It's really well put together, fantastically acted, and really good script and all this type of stuff. I think it really put together a really good film here. I saw it in theater in '99 and liked it then. I've liked it for 20 years. It still holds up really, really well. It's a fun goddamn horror movie to really kind of enjoy and get into in a certain way. So it's like, there's enough entertainment value on all different levels with the sort of humor you have going on in certain situations, the wonderful mood the film has, the fantastic filmmaking qualities it has. It's one of the best remakes out there. It's not the total excellent upper echelon, but it's like, it's really good. It shows that you can do, when you got so many things these days who want to be rebooted and remaked and stuff like that, and revivals, all this type of stuff. It shows that you can still do it well when you have enough reverence for the original source material, the original film out there, and have a certain sensibility to enhance it and amplify it and improve it and have these new elements, and still have fantastic talents involved with the film in front of and behind the camera here. They did a really fantastic job to make that happen. I think this is really one you should check out if you haven't already. It's got great things going on all over it. So guys, definitely get your comments about this film down below. If you've seen the original film with Vincent Price, also add in your comments about that too, because apparently there's certain things where it's like, they didn't really have the ability to really kind of do ghosts so much back in those days, so they had to write in different elements of the script that didn't quite pay off the haunted element of the whole film. But definitely throw in your comments overall about House on a Haunted Hill, whatever they might be. If you did see that sequel that Malone didn't have anything to do with and didn't go over very well, throw them in there as well if you have anything to say about whatsoever. But again, awesome stuff in this film, definitely worthwhile. So guys, thanks so much for checking this video out. I'll be back very soon with more fantastic horror stuff for the whole entire goddamn month here. So thanks so much, guys. You can always hit up the Patreon to get a little extra incentive, a little more early access to things around here as things come out, with the new commentaries, the new reviews, all these different things, and maybe some other cool stuff coming up eventually. So guys, thanks so much. Take care. Bye-bye.